Yet another bailout. South African Airways and the South African Post Office will benefit from millions yet again. At whose cost? Why do we continue propping up these dying SOEs? We were expecting VAT and tax increases from Tito Mboweni, maybe a cut in public service jobs. Instead, the finance minister is giving us a break from increases in personal and corporate tax. I suppose that's a good thing. He's zero rating sanitary pads, bread flour and cake flour, and he put his foot down on the issue of e-tolls. Crackdown on corruption will see those implicated in the VBS scandal going to jail if they're found guilty. But is any of this good for the country? Tonight we speak to MBA students Keith Tshabalala and Tholofelo Thema and Lebogang Hoeane of the Leading Women Program at the Gordon Institute of Business Science about whether the minister has hit the right note. Lebogang, let me start with you. What did you make of it? I mean, you are the youth, the future's in your hands. Did you hear what you wanted to hear?
In a way I did. What I was looking for is almost admittance that they know something is wrong, and they did that. They are aware that governance needs to be, they need to rein it in. I think realizing the problem is part of the solution. Now, what are the steps that they're going to take to actually rectify the mess? And that's what I didn't get. So I know I've got a problem, I need to sort it out. So that's what I didn't get from the speech today.
The fact that really there's no plan.
There is no plan. And it's almost like he just took Nene's speech and just made it his. Given the short space of time, he probably did that. So for me, he didn't bring anything really different to it, other than engaging South Africans, which helps, I guess, in some way.
And he certainly is engaging, isn't he? I mean, it was an amusing speech to listen to if the economy wasn't in such tatters. He admitted that unemployment is unacceptably high.
Absolutely.
But he didn't really address anything when it comes to the youth unemployment.
And I think that's what I was missing as well from the speech this afternoon is, unemployment, particularly in the youth in South Africa, is still one of the socioeconomic issues that are pressing at the moment. And also the education system as well, which obviously is birthed the unemployment currently. And I think, the YES program and the job summit that, we had earlier this month was supposed to be the conversation was supposed to be picked up. And like you said, have further plans to accelerate that. So I think that was something that I was rather disappointed with in regards to that. And I appreciate him addressing the corruption. I appreciate him, trying to give us some sort of comfort that he is making some leeway. He's had 2 weeks in the post. We understand that. But I think at this pressing time, we needed a bit more engaging, conversations around the pivotal issues that are currently pressing at the moment.
So lots of glaring omissions there then, Keith.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, we seem like to be recycling old policies that hadn't worked in the past. Of course.
Well, to be fair, excuse me, jumping in here, this is probably written months ago anyway, right?
Yes, no, definitely, definitely. Yeah, for me, I think I was looking at how do we stimulate the economic growth. For example, I was expecting some relief on the SMEs tax, the corporate tax, because that's where our economy is really needs to strive on. So I was looking at some relief, and there was nothing on that. Yes, he's addressing the issue on social aspect in terms of removing VAT on sanitary pads, which is good, because if there is social unrest, and then that creates problems. But I was really looking for how do we stimulate the economy with problems that we have currently. For example, there is petrol prices that are always going up twice a month or 3 times a month, and how does he address that? The people are complaining, and that's what we need.
Okay. You touched on possibly the only bit of good news, the fact that there will be zero VAT on sanitary pads and certain flours. Let's listen to what he said about that.
Number 1, sanitary pads. Floyd, I thought you'd clap. Okay. I want to see you clapping. Thank you. 2, bread flour. 3, cake flour. Now, I know you are clapping, that's very good, but here is the thing. So the revenue loss associated with zero rating these items is estimated at 1.2 billion rand.
That can only be a good thing, finally.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, especially with the sanitary towels, that's a really fantastic, I think, start. I think we still have a long way to go. We should get to a point where it's free, just like we have with other products. It's a good start, but we have to now fund the gap. We have to find that money somewhere else. And I think it already exists.
Sorry, there'll be a, what's it, 1.2 billion shortfall from that.
Absolutely.
Which is staggering.
It is, but I think we can find that money somewhere else. We just need to make sure that, this purse, we pull it in, rein it in a bit, rein in the costs, cut costs, and actually just go for it. It's probably a hard decision, but we need to start cutting costs.
Should other foodstuffs be affected?
Absolutely. I think as a start, the sanitary pads, the flowers, it's a start. We can't expect too much at the moment, especially with our economic stability at the moment. But my question exactly was that. How do we fund, this revenue loss? Taxes are not going up, thankfully, for now. What about the public wage bill? That's been high on the table. When are we having that discussion of 17 ministers and the high wage bill that's currently taking a large portion
and as we've
of the
seen,
budget?
that the obvious cuts, the obvious people who have to go are just
absolutely.
Don't go.
So we still
They
need to
continue
have that
keep on to their
conversation.
very expensive jobs. If he addresses the wage issue, do you think he'll be on a collision course with the unions?
He will be, definitely, because we know that we are a unionized nation, so that he should be tread very careful on that. He needs to come with a plan before he announces anything. He needs to come up with a plan to say how is he going to do that and how is he going to fund. And he was speaking about cutting the cabinet that Ramaphosa needs to do, and what is the plan on that? Who should go and who shouldn't go? Obviously, we know that the people that should go is the people that do not perform, which we all know who those people are, and they've been there and they're not delivering anything. So when he's saying that, is he saying that we're going to cut the people that are not performing, or what are we going to do? What is the plan? And then also there is minimum wage that has been was introduced some time ago, which is a very, very sensitive issue. So he cannot step on those.
He can't touch that.
Yeah, he can't touch that.
And also, if you get rid of those jobs, those inflated salaries, that can only be good for the youth as well, can't it? I mean, you need this fresh blood coming through, possibly a little bit more affordable. You don't need so many.
Absolutely, Jane. And I think what strikes me the most is headcount is not going up. It's the salaries.
Exactly.
So headcount is standing at
exactly
the same level, but the salaries are shooting up, and you still have a large portion, about 67% of our youth is unemployed. That is sad.
Yeah, it's really bad, isn't it? I mean, do you think that education is in the right place to educate the youth up enough to take the jobs that will hopefully one day become available?
I don't think so. And so that's why you have a lot of private education systems coming up, because they're trying to address a need that's actually there in the market.
Yeah, the
so
disparity is enormous, isn't
absolutely. So the public system, you do have pockets of value, but right now the public system is struggling. And I think that's where we should really start. Once you educate the youth to have the right, position themselves for the right jobs, the jobs for the future, I think that's will be in the right space. But right now, I think the focus is on just really trying to solve a problem and just trying to do what we can with whatever little we got.
And do you agree with what he said about financial sector being an important hub now for new jobs?
Absolutely. I mean, new jobs. The first thing that strikes my mind is the fourth industrial revolution, and it's actually here. It's not coming still. And going back to her point of saying, the new world of work, these unemployed youths ready for the new world of work, because there are jobs in the next 5 years. They are going to be redundant according to the World Economic Forum. And are those youth, is the youth that's actually coming into the system ready for those jobs? Are they equipped with those skills? Or are we trying to eradicate the problem of the now to say, just get them in the system? But are we getting them into the right position so that they have sustainable jobs in the future to take our country to the next step?
Are they being put on the right path, the right trajectory to take over these new jobs, the the ones that will be created in the future?
It's definitely not happening because we're looking at AI, which is taking over currently. And there's very, very few schools that are addressing that need. And you've got probably 1%, if not 0.9% that are addressing that issue. And then in terms of the government schools, you go around different schools, there is not that program. And then when you go to high school and varsity level as well, there is no entrepreneurship that is being taught. Let's teach our youth entrepreneurship because our economy is going to depend on the entrepreneurship. So what are we doing to teach our youth how to be entrepreneurship? And those that are trying to be entrepreneurs, there is no enough support that is given. For example, that's one of the issues that I touched it when I opened, that I was hoping that they will have some sort of relief on the tax on small businesses. And also the support.
Really going to be affected.
Yeah, so that support, there are supports like from ITC and other houses, but it's very difficult. The red tape around that is very difficult. It's too high. So we need to work on bringing it down so that we can enable these youngsters that can then stimulate our economy.
If you were finance minister for the day, from what you've learned, what you're going to be giving to the world, what would you have done differently?
Oh man, I have a thing for education. I think the very first thing that I would address is the education, the level. The quality of education in our country is appalling. We are in a crisis currently, and if we do not solve that, because that's at grassroots level, that is the core of the conversation. That's the core of the conversation of South Africa being moved from developing to a developed country. That's the answer to South Africa being, a state where it can, compete on a global platform. And I think if we don't address that need now, we're in trouble. So I would invest highly in that. And I would work with the education department to really fix that. And I think that's why we're doing the MBA at Gibbs, because we want to equip ourselves with those skills so that we are in a position to be able to be global influencers and leaders to move this country into a place where we want it to be.
If you could have stood up there and said anything you wanted, what would it have been?
I think it would have been a how plan. How are we going to clean up the mess? Because the minute you say that, I think you're going to win a lot of South Africans over. You're going to bring a lot of them and go, I'm with you. I'll help clean it up. When Cyril did the Tumamina, send me, we were all behind him. And if Tito had just said today, how? This is how we're going to do it. But I'm going to need all of you to come with me. Absolutely, I would have signed up. So for me, I would have said, this is how we're going to do it.
Okay, and you've obviously got to drive to work, e-tolls. He sort of flirted around, and I think we've got the soundbite of where he addresses the e-toll situation. Let's listen to it. That's not the SARS one, it's the next one.
If we want the road network to work, we must therefore pay our tolls. Government remains committed to the user pay principle because it is the most efficient and effective way to ensure that the direct benefits of services are paid for by those who use them directly. We need to restore a culture of payment in this country to ensure the sustainability of our services.
Order, honorable members.
And to give confidence to those institutions who invest in our bonds.
Considering elections around the corner, is he playing a dangerous game there with his electorate? Huh?
That's very dangerous because now people are taxed more as we speak. And now to say people must go and pay their tolls, that's very, very dangerous. I think he should have put that aside and then look at what can be done. And maybe after the elections, then he can say, how can we use these e-tolls? Because e-tolls are there, so we don't want white elephants. They are there, but how do we use them? Obvious to help with other things if the e-toll, the purpose that is serving now it hasn't been well received because it was not properly planned, it wasn't properly communicated. The same thing that Lembo was saying, that if he had told us how are we going to do this, the same thing that we're supposed to do with the e-tolls when they introduced them, to say, listen, this is what we're proposing to do, these are the challenges that we're trying to address, and then how are we going to, because now Same thing, everything is going up, inflation is shooting up, and where do you expect the people to get the money to pay the e-tolls?
Do you think people would be more forgiving if we hadn't seen this incredible corruption in almost every single sphere?
Absolutely. We it's a reflex, mentality now. You are messing with us so much. We're not going to pay the e-tolls. We've had enough. And I think, we have such a vibrant youth also coming up, and that's why we had initiatives and campaigns like the fees must fall, because we are such a vibrant and loud and vocal youth. And that's why the issue of unemployment, particularly amongst the youth, is such a touchy one and such a deep one, because we are tired. We said, this is where the country is moving. You said there are going to be opportunities. Where are they? We're going to schools, but we cannot access these jobs. You have corruption further, perpetuating, but we can't go to tertiary institutions because we cannot afford to. So all those things are interlinked, and, it starts from the socioeconomic issues and they ripple down to the economy.
And let's not be silent. Tholofelo, Thema, Lebogang Hoeane and Keith Tshabalala, thank you very much. Still ahead, did the Finance Minister give enough to the backbone of our economy, small and medium businesses?